The alien princess made a vow. Defeat my champion human and I'll be yours. Sci-Fi Vault. The great hall of the Aurelian court floated above the planet like a crown of light. Long bridges of stone and metal connected wide platforms that drifted slowly in the sky. Below them, clouds moved like a silver ocean. The air shimmered with soft energy fields, keeping everything in balance. This place was old, older than most stars known to humans, and every alien present felt the weight of tradition pressing down on them. Princess Lyra stood at the center of the hall. She was tall and calm, her pale blue skin glowing under the crystal lights. Her eyes were sharp, not cold but trained by years of rule and duty. She wore no heavy armor, only ceremonial robes that marked her rank. The court had gathered because she had called them, and when a princess of the Aurelian people called the court, it meant something important was about to happen. Around her stood nobles, generals, scholars, and champions from many allied worlds. They whispered among themselves, guessing the reason for this sudden gathering. Some believed it was about war, others thought it was about marriage alliances. A few feared rebellion in the outer systems. None of them guessed the truth. Lyra raised her hand and the hall fell silent at once. "By the law of our ancestors," she said, her voice clear and steady, "I speak now not only as a princess, but as a daughter of the throne." Energy symbols appeared in the air behind her, glowing softly. They showed ancient words and marks that dated back to the founding of her people. "There is an old vow," she continued, "a vow that has not been spoken aloud for many cycles, a vow meant for times when the future of our people must change." The whispers grew louder, then stopped again as she looked across the crowd. "I will take a bond," Lyra said. "Not for comfort, not for politics alone, but for strength and unity. Any outsider who defeats my chosen champion will earn the right to stand beside me, and their people will earn our full alliance." The hall erupted. Voices rose in shock and disbelief. Some nobles protested openly. Others laughed, thinking it was some kind of test or joke. A few warriors looked offended, as if the idea itself was an insult to their honor. An elder stepped forward, his body supported by a thin metal frame. "Princess," he said carefully, "this vow was made in a different age. Outsiders were few and danger was everywhere. To revive it now is risky." Lyra met his gaze. "Our age is changing again," she replied, "and danger has returned even if we refuse to name it." Before anyone could argue further, heavy footsteps echoed through the hall. A massive figure moved forward and knelt before the princess. This was Korath, the chosen champion. His body was built for battle, covered in old scars that told stories of survival. His eyes burned with confidence, not pride alone, but certainty. He had never been defeated. "I will defend your vow," Korath said. "No outsider will pass me." Many in the hall nodded. That settled it, they thought. The vow would be made, but no one would ever win. At the edge of the gathering stood a small group of visitors from distant systems. Traders, diplomats, and observers watched quietly. Among them was a human. His name was Evan Hale. Compared to the others, he looked fragile. He wore a simple dark suit, not armor. His hands were bare. His hair was short and dark, his face tired, marked by long travel rather than battle. Most aliens barely noticed him at all, but Evan listened carefully. He had come as a minor envoy, sent to observe and report. Humans were still new to this region of space, known more for trade routes and repair crews than for warriors. They were tolerated, sometimes mocked, rarely respected. When the noise in the hall slowly settled, Evan took a step forward. At first, no one noticed. Then a nearby guard turned, surprised, and placed a hand on his weapon. Evan raised his empty hands to show peace. "I accept the vow," he said. The words were simple, spoken in clear common speech, but they struck the hall like a shockwave. Laughter broke out. Some nobles stared in disbelief. A few thought the translation must be wrong. Princess Lyra looked directly at him. Her expression did not change, but her eyes narrowed slightly. "You are human," she said. "You understand what this vow means." "Yes," Evan replied. "Defeat the champion, earn the bond." Korath turned and looked down at Evan. The champion did not laugh. He only studied the human quietly, as one might study a strange insect that had wandered into a battlefield. "You will die," Korath said calmly. "Maybe," Evan answered. "But I will try." More laughter followed, louder this time. An advisor stepped forward. "Princess, this is madness. Humans are not fighters, they break easily. This is an insult to your honor and to the champion." Lyra raised her hand again. Silence returned. "The vow allows any outsider," she said. "If he wishes to try, he may." She looked back at Evan. "You have 3 days," she told him. "Prepare yourself. Learn our rules. If you choose to withdraw before the duel, no shame will follow." Evan bowed slightly. "Thank you." He turned and walked away, leaving the court buzzing behind him. As he exited the hall, whispers followed. "Is this a joke? Does he want attention? Humans are foolish." Princess Lyra watched him go. For the first time since speaking the vow, she felt something unexpected. Not regret, but curiosity. Later that cycle, Lyra stood alone on a balcony overlooking the drifting city. Lights moved slowly below her like fireflies. The stars above were sharp and endless. She had expected challengers from strong warrior races. She had not expected a human. An aide approached quietly. "Princess," the aide said, "should we deny him access to the arena systems? For his own safety." Lyra shook her head. "No, let him observe." "Do you believe he has a chance?" Lyra did not answer right away. "I believe," she said finally, "that he believes he does." That alone disturbed her. In a guest quarter far from the royal towers, Evan sat alone in a small room. The walls were smooth and warm to the touch, shaped by alien design. A window showed the stars. Evan removed a small device from his pocket. It was no weapon, at least not in the usual sense. He placed it on the table and activated a soft light display. Data flowed silently across the surface. He replayed recordings of the hall, the arena layout, the energy readings. He had been watching, listening, measuring. He did not smile. There was no joy in his face. He remembered Earth far away. He remembered the way humans had been treated in councils like this before, smiled at, ignored, underestimated. He remembered promises made and broken. "This time," he said softly to the empty room, "they will listen." Outside, guards watched him through distant sensors. They reported little of interest. No training, no weapons, just a human sitting and thinking. 3 days, the court believed, would only make his defeat more embarrassing. Princess Lyra, however, could not sleep. She reviewed the human records herself. Sparse history. No great wars, at least none that matched alien standards. No enhanced body. No combat rank. And yet something about the way he had spoken stayed with her. Not brave words. Not angry ones. Just calm acceptance. As the stars slowly turned outside her window, Lyra wondered if reviving the vow had already changed more than she had planned. Far below, unseen by most, the arena lights powered on, testing old systems that had not been used in many cycles. And in the quiet space between worlds, something small and human had begun to shift the balance of expectation. The arena floated above the city like a crown of steel and light. Its walls were high, curved, and polished, reflecting the stars and the drifting platforms below. Energy barriers hummed quietly, ready to contain anything inside. This was where Korath, the champion of the Aurelian people, had never lost a fight. Generations of warriors had faced him here, and all had fallen. Today, a human would face him for the first time. Evan Hale arrived at the arena hours before the duel. He walked slowly, observing every detail. The floor was made of a special alloy that responded to weight and impact. Panels along the walls measured movement and force, transmitting data to the control systems. Evan crouched in places, touched the panels lightly, memorizing their energy patterns. Nearby, Korath trained silently. He moved with a rhythm born of countless battles. Each step shook the floor slightly. His muscles rippled under scars that glowed faintly from old biotic enhancements. He did not speak, did not notice Evan yet. His mind focused only on preparation. The alien audience began to arrive, floating platforms filled with nobles, scholars, and warriors. Some carried weapons, some wore ceremonial robes, others sat quietly in anticipation. The air was tense with expectation. Whispers traveled quickly. The idea of a human facing Korath seemed impossible. Princess Lyra watched from a high balcony. She wore a simple robe, her hands clasped, her expression unreadable. Around her, aides adjusted devices and recorded energy flows. She knew Korath would fight with everything he had. And she also knew that Evan was a human, seemingly weak compared to the champion. Yet, something about Evan's calm acceptance gnawed at her curiosity. Evan did not fight physically during these hours. Instead, he observed and calculated. He tested gravity shifts in small zones of the arena using a compact human device. He measured the chamber's energy resonance and noted the way light reflected off surfaces. Every detail mattered, every flaw could become an advantage. Korath finally noticed him. He stopped, eyes narrowing. His presence alone made the floor tremble. He did not speak at first, simply observed the human. Most opponents, when first facing him, trembled, shouted, or moved too quickly. Evan did none of these. He simply studied the champion's posture, stance, and rhythm. Lyra leaned forward slightly. "He is different," she whispered to her aide. "Not afraid, not arrogant, calm, too calm for one who faces certain death." The aide nodded but said nothing. The princess's curiosity was well known. Even Korath had learned to respect her judgment over the years. When the time came to enter the arena, the doors opened slowly. The air shimmered with protective energy. Evan stepped in first. He carried nothing but the small device at his belt and a quiet confidence. Korath entered after him. The ground seemed to bend slightly under his weight. The arena vibrated as he walked, a warning to all who dared oppose him. The court held its breath. The duel would begin soon. No one spoke. Every eye, human and alien alike, was fixed on the arena. The stars outside seemed to fade, leaving only the chamber of steel and light. Korath bowed slightly, a ritual gesture of respect. "Human," he said, his voice deep and steady, "you have chosen to face me. Know that no one before you has succeeded." Evan nodded. "I understand." A tension passed through the air, invisible but felt by all. Lyra's gaze did not waver. She was unsure whether she hoped the human would win or lose. Winning would defy tradition, losing might make a mockery of the vow. Yet she felt compelled to watch. The first test began with observation. Korath struck at the floor, sending a wave of force across the arena. Panels lit up, energy surged, but Evan moved lightly, stepping out of the strongest zones. He watched Korath carefully, noting the speed and impact. He did not attack. He learned, the aliens in the audience murmured. "He will not last 5 strikes," one noble said. "He is human. They do not survive such power," another replied. Evan's mind worked differently. He was not strong like Korath, not fast like the champion, but he was precise. He had trained in strategies humans developed over centuries, ways to survive, adapt, and turn strength against itself. Every movement Korath made became data. Every pause, every breath, every glance registered in Evan's memory. Hours passed in preparation. Korath tested the arena's energy flows, attempting small attacks to gauge the human's reactions. Evan avoided damage but learned timing, direction, and flow. Korath began to grow frustrated. Most humans would panic under his presence. Evan remained calm, almost unreadable. Lyra noticed Korath's subtle change. His attacks were less confident, more measured. This was unusual. Even the audience sensed it. Whispers spread slowly. Is the human learning faster than expected? Evan paused in the middle of the arena, crouched slightly. He spoke softly, more to himself than anyone else. Strength is obvious, timing is invisible, balance is everything. He touched his device lightly. Small energy markers appeared on the floor, invisible to anyone but him, showing patterns of pressure and force. He would use them later when the duel officially began. Korath studied him more carefully now. "You are strange," he said. "I have never faced one who does not fear." Evan simply looked at him. "Fear is useless if you cannot use it. I will fight with my mind before I fight with my body." The audience was silent. Even the most experienced warriors could feel that something unusual was happening. The human was not strong, yet he was not ordinary. Lyra stepped closer to the edge of the balcony, eyes fixed on Evan. "Do you understand the rules?" she asked quietly to herself. "No weapons, no allies, just the arena and the champion. He must either win or die." And yet, her voice trailed off. She could not shake the feeling that the human might do more than survive. Evan did not sleep that night. Instead, he studied the arena data again, recalculating pressure points, gravity shifts, and Korath's attack patterns. He adjusted his device to emit subtle fields at precise times. Each calculation was small, almost invisible, but when combined it could change the flow of battle. Korath, meanwhile, rested in a chamber filled with light energy. His body healed naturally, but his mind did not rest. He had faced many warriors, yet he could not predict this human. Most humans quivered under his presence. This one remained steady. Something in that calmness unsettled him. When the morning of the duel arrived, the arena doors opened once more. Evan stepped in first, placing his device carefully near the center. Korath followed, the floor trembling under each of his steps. The audience quieted, every breath held in anticipation. Lyra stood above, her heart beating faster than she expected. The human had not impressed her with brute strength, yet she felt tension in her chest she did not fully understand. The vow had been a formality, a test of strength. But now it was no longer just a test. Something else had entered the air, a feeling that the outcome might be unlike anything the court had ever witnessed. Evan and Korath faced each other in silence. Not a word was spoken. Only the hum of the energy barriers and the soft vibrations of the floor filled the air. The first move would decide the pace of the duel. Both knew it. Both waited. And far above, Lyra leaned forward, knowing that when the duel began, nothing would be the same again. The arena was silent except for the hum of energy fields. The sun of the distant star system cut through the upper windows, casting long streaks of light across the polished floor. Korath stood like a mountain, muscles tensed, eyes fixed on the human who faced him. Evan Hale did not flinch. He studied the champion with quiet focus, his hands at his sides, his breathing even. Every movement, every flicker of muscle, every shadow told him what he needed to know. The aliens in the audience held their breath. For the first time, they sensed that the fight might not be as simple as they expected. Humans were not known for combat. Most believed they could barely hold a weapon. Yet here, this single human faced the undefeated Korath, and he seemed unafraid. Even the air felt heavier, charged with anticipation. Korath lunged first. His fist struck the ground with a force that made the floor vibrate and the energy barriers pulse. Shockwaves rolled across the arena. Evan jumped aside, careful and precise, landing lightly as panels beneath him recorded each step. He was not fast like Korath, but he was measured. He used the arena's design, slipping along its curves, absorbing the force rather than opposing it. The audience gasped. Korath's attack was meant to end fights instantly, yet Evan remained standing. He did not counterattack immediately. Instead, he moved as though dancing with the vibrations, turning each strike into an opportunity to learn. Korath's eyes narrowed. No opponent had ever survived more than a few strikes, yet this human adapted. Every motion, every lunge, every feint he made seemed calculated. The champion had never faced calculation like this. Strength alone would not win the fight. Evan activated the small device at his belt. It emitted a faint pulse that subtly changed the gravity in a small zone around him. Korath felt a slight shift under his feet but could not pinpoint it. He swung harder, aiming to crush the human, but Evan anticipated each strike. He rolled, ducked, and sidestepped, using Korath's momentum against him. Small cracks formed in the arena floor where the champion's force collided with precise counterweights Evan had planned. The crowd erupted in whispers. How is this possible? He is human. He moves like the floor itself is his weapon. Princess Lyra watched from above, her pulse quickening. She had expected Korath to dominate. He had never lost. But now the human moved differently. Not faster, not stronger, but smarter. He used observation, strategy, and the environment. He turned Korath's overwhelming power into something he could endure. Korath growled. He was not used to being studied. He was used to being feared. His fists pounded the floor, sending larger shockwaves. Evan continued to move with careful precision. He stayed just out of reach, predicting each strike before it came. The device emitted another pulse, and small energy markers shifted the arena subtly, changing balance points just enough to make Korath stumble briefly. Korath's frustration grew. His attacks became wilder, more forceful, less controlled. The champion's confidence, so absolute before the duel, began to crack. The audience sensed it. The whispers turned to murmurs of astonishment. Some even feared the human might survive. Evan, despite the intensity, remained calm. He did not panic, did not shout, did not overcommit. Every breath was timed, every movement precise. He turned Korath's strength into a series of predictable motions, slowly exhausting the champion while conserving his own energy. The human's strategy became clear. He did not need to overpower Korath. He only needed to endure, to redirect, and to wait for the perfect moment. Every pulse of the device, every shift of weight, every subtle movement created a rhythm that Korath could not control. Lyra leaned forward, her hands gripping the balcony rail. She realized the vow she had spoken had taken on a life of its own. This human was not just fighting, he was rewriting the rules of the duel. She felt a mixture of awe and worry. If the human survived, the tradition of her people might change forever. Korath roared, swinging both arms in a powerful double strike. The arena shook violently. Panels lit up with warning signals. Evan ducked, then rolled forward, positioning himself beneath the champion's strike. Using the momentum, he nudged Korath slightly off balance, not with strength, but with precise timing. The audience gasped. The undefeated champion, who had never fallen, stumbled. A small crack spread across the polished floor. Whispers turned into shocked silence. Korath's eyes burned with fury. "Impossible," he shouted. "You are only human." Evan stood calmly, his eyes fixed on Korath. "I am only human," he said, "but humans survive when others fail." The champion launched another attack, faster this time, desperate to end the fight. Evan anticipated it, sidestepped, and allowed Korath's full force to strike a prepared section of the floor. The ground shifted, energy surged, and the arena trembled. Korath lost balance again, more violently. He was strong, but even the strongest can be misdirected. The audience was stunned. No one had expected a human to withstand so much. Lyra's heart raced. She had called the vow, but now she wondered if she had unleashed something the court could not contain. Korath paused, breathing heavily. His eyes searched Evan's face, trying to understand. The human had no visible weapon, no enhancements, only his mind and his body. Yet he was holding the champion's attacks at bay. Evan knew he could not fight indefinitely. He needed one decisive moment. He calculated the rhythm of Korath's next strike, the energy flow through the arena, the subtle shifts of gravity he controlled. Timing was everything. One mistake would cost him dearly. Korath lunged again, more cautious now but still dangerous. Evan shifted, ducked, and activated the device fully. A precise, small pulse altered gravity just under Korath's feet. The champion's footing failed. He stumbled forward, unable to regain balance quickly enough. The arena shivered as cracks spread beneath him. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Korath, the undefeated, the champion feared by all, fell to one knee. The audience held its breath. Even the most skeptical nobles felt a chill. This human, small and unassuming, had done what no one thought possible. Evan stepped closer, his own body calm but alert. "End the fight," he said firmly, "before the arena breaks." Korath looked up at him, disbelief and respect in his eyes. He realized that this human was not only enduring but also commanding the environment itself. A warrior not by strength, but by mind and courage. Princess Lyra exhaled slowly, leaning back. She had not imagined that her vow would create such a spectacle. Her heart swelled with curiosity, admiration, and a hint of fear. This human might survive, and if he did, nothing would be the same in her court or her empire. Korath struggled to rise, but the arena shook violently. Panels flashed red as stress warnings filled the air. Even the champion knew the battle was no longer about victory alone. Survival became urgent. Evan moved carefully, not attacking, only maintaining control and balance. He watched Korath, watching the arena, watching every motion. The human strategy had worked. Strength alone was no longer enough. The duel, the audience realized, was not just a test of power. It was a test of wit, precision, and courage. Humanity, underestimated and mocked, had proven it could stand against the mightiest of warriors. And high above, Princess Lyra knew that the vow she had spoken in jest and tradition had created something far greater than a simple duel. It had created suspense, awe, and a story that would be remembered across generations. The arena trembled once more, signaling that the fight was not over, but that everything had changed. The human had survived the first phase of the duel, against the undefeated champion, and now, all eyes waited for what would happen next. The arena quaked like a living thing. The polished floor cracked under the repeated force of Korath's strikes. Sparks of energy flickered from damaged panels. High above, the audience gasped as small sections of the chamber began to crumble. The duel had moved beyond skill. It had become a battle for survival. Evan Hale moved carefully, his body bruised and scratched from the champion's overwhelming power. He did not panic. Each breath was measured, each step precise. The human had learned the arena, its weak points, and its energy patterns. But even with all his knowledge, the chamber itself had begun to betray them. Gravity shifted unpredictably as the energy fields weakened. One wrong move could send him falling into the void below. Korath roared, fury and exhaustion mingling in his voice. "You survive by trickery, human. You are not a warrior like me." Evan did not respond with anger. He only moved, predicting the next strike, using the cracks in the floor to redirect Korath's momentum. Every stumble of the champion made the arena tremble more violently. High above, Princess Lyra's face was pale. She had called this duel to honor an ancient vow, but she had not anticipated the chamber itself would become a deadly hazard. Korath was strong, yes, but even his immense power could not withstand a collapsing arena. And Evan, though small and human, had managed to survive the impossible so far. The arena began to tilt, pulling sections of the floor downward with alarming speed. Sparks from ruptured energy panels fell like rain. Korath's strength alone was no longer enough to keep him standing. The champion's movements became heavier, slower, less precise. Evan adjusted his device. A soft pulse shifted gravity in a small area under Korath's feet, stabilizing the champion just enough to prevent a fatal collapse. Korath stumbled but did not fall. For the first time, he looked at the human not with contempt but with grudging respect. Princess Lyra acted before anyone could stop her. She raced down the balcony on a transport glide, landing near the arena floor despite orders to stay back. "Evan," she called, her voice carrying over the chaos. "The arena is failing. You must stabilize it." Evan's eyes met hers. "I can't do it alone," he said. "I need help." Without hesitation, Lyra moved to assist. She touched panels and rerouted energy flows, using her own knowledge of Aurelian technology to reinforce critical points. Korath, seeing her involvement, realized that the human's survival depended on more than skill. It depended on ingenuity, courage, and teamwork. Slowly he approached, nodding at both of them. Together, the three worked to stabilize the arena. Evan adjusted his device to shift gravity in real time, Lyra rerouted energy to support weakened panels, and Korath used brute force where precision failed. Each second was a struggle. The chamber shook, panels sparked, and cracks grew wider. The audience watched in stunned silence. The duel had become more than a fight between two beings. It was a battle to save everyone in the arena. Even the court's skeptics had to admit the human was remarkable. Minutes passed like hours. Sweat ran down faces, bodies ached, and energy surged dangerously close to overload. But slowly the arena stabilized. Evan collapsed to one knee, exhausted. Lyra stayed at his side, hands glowing with residual energy from the panels she had touched. Korath stood nearby, breathing heavily, finally understanding that this human had not only endured his attacks but had also saved the chamber itself. The court hesitated. The original rules had been clear: defeat the champion and the vow was fulfilled. But the situation had changed. The human had survived, yes, but the duel had expanded into a test of courage, intelligence, and resourcefulness. The laws of tradition did not cover this moment. Princess Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "The duel has ended," she declared. "The champion is unharmed and the human has proven his strength and wisdom. The vow must stand, not as a mere contest of force, but as a recognition of courage, ingenuity, and honor." Korath knelt slightly, acknowledging Evan's skill and determination. "You have survived where others could not," he said. "I respect you, human." Evan nodded, still catching his breath. "I fight not for glory," he said, "but because it is necessary. Because humans can endure and because courage can outweigh raw strength." The audience, initially skeptical, erupted in applause. They had witnessed something extraordinary. A human, small and underestimated, had faced the undefeated champion and survived. He had done more than win a duel. He had saved the arena, taught the court humility, and changed their perception of humanity forever. Lyra looked at Evan, her decision made. The vow, once a formality, was now a symbol of something new. Strength was no longer measured solely by size or power. Intelligence, courage, and resourcefulness were equally important. She extended her hand, not as a prize but as a gesture of respect and unity. Evan accepted, and the chamber seemed to breathe with relief. The duel had ended, but its impact would echo far beyond the arena. Korath, once feared and untouchable, had learned humility. Lyra had learned to trust in something beyond tradition, and humanity, for the first time in this distant empire, had earned respect. Above the arena, the floating city glimmered in the light of distant stars. Below, repairs would need to be made, but the court had witnessed a new standard of strength. This human had shown that courage, ingenuity, and determination could surpass even the greatest warriors. And far beyond, in the quiet reaches of space, other civilizations would begin to notice the rise of humans, not as traitors or weaklings, but as beings capable of facing the impossible and prevailing. The first phase of the duel was over, but its story had only just begun. Humanity had shown that survival, intelligence, and bravery could conquer what brute strength could not. And in the hearts of those who had watched, a new respect was born, ready to shape the galaxy in ways no one had yet imagined. The arena was quiet now, though the echoes of battle still lingered. Cracks marred the polished floor and energy panels flickered weakly, but the immediate danger had passed. Evan Hale, bruised and exhausted, stood with Princess Lyra by his side. Korath, the undefeated champion, remained on one knee, his chest rising and falling as he caught his breath. The audience held their silence, uncertain how to react. Princess Lyra stepped forward, her pale blue skin shimmering softly under the dim lights. She raised her hand, and the murmurs of the court slowly died. "This duel was meant to test strength," she began, her voice calm but firm. "But what we have witnessed is something far greater. Strength is not only the force one can wield. It is courage, wisdom, and the willingness to act when the moment demands it." The court listened in stunned silence. Aliens who had once mocked humans now looked at Evan with astonishment. He was a being they had underestimated, a human who had faced the greatest champion and survived, not by brute force, but by intelligence, courage, and persistence. Korath rose slowly, moving toward Evan. His eyes, usually filled with the cold fire of conquest, now held respect. "You have endured what none have before," he said. "You have proven that power is not only measured by muscle or weapon. You are worthy." Evan nodded, still catching his breath. "I did what I had to," he said simply. "Not for glory, not for reward, but because humans can endure, and we face challenges even when they seem impossible." Lyra looked at Evan with something more than curiosity now. There was admiration, a recognition that this human had changed her understanding of courage and honor. She stepped closer. "The vow I made," she said, "was not a mere game. It was a promise. And now I choose to honor it, not because the law demands it, but because it is right." The audience shifted uneasily. The vow had been called centuries ago, a tradition to test outsiders. No one had ever expected a human to win, and now the princess herself declared the bond meaningful. A murmur of astonishment spread, followed by cautious applause. Evan considered her words carefully. "I will accept your hand," he said, "but only if humans are treated as equals. Not as curiosities, not as subordinates, but as partners." Lyra smiled faintly. "Agreed," she said. "Strength is not only in arms, but in the respect we give each other. Let this be the start of a new understanding between our peoples." Korath stepped back, bowing slightly to both of them. "I yield not in defeat," he said, "but in acknowledgement. You have taught us all that true strength is more than fighting. It is thinking, adapting, and enduring." The court erupted into applause. Nobles and warriors alike, who had once doubted humans, now saw them as beings capable of great achievement. Scholars whispered excitedly, recording every detail. Even those who had opposed the humans' challenge found themselves in awe. Outside the arena, the floating city gleamed under distant stars. Repairs would need to be made, but the hearts of those who had witnessed the duel had already been repaired, reshaped by respect and awe. Princess Lyra and Evan walked together through the damaged but still magnificent arena. She glanced at him, the faintest smile on her face. "You have changed everything," she said. "I only did what I had to," Evan replied. "But perhaps change is the point of vows like this." Korath watched them, a rare smile on his face. "Perhaps humans are not so fragile as we believed," he murmured. "Perhaps they have always had what it takes to survive and excel." Lyra paused and looked toward the stars. Far away, other civilizations would be watching. They would see that humans, once underestimated, could face impossible odds and prevail. The galaxy had been reminded that strength could take many forms, and that even a single human, clever and brave, could shift the balance of expectation. The story of this duel would be told for generations, not as a tale of brute force, but as a lesson. Courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to yield could overcome even the greatest power. Humanity had not only survived, they had earned respect and opened a new chapter in interstellar history. And high above, in the quiet expanse of space, distant observers began to take notice. Humans were no longer to be underestimated. A single human had faced the greatest champion of a proud alien race, had endured, had survived, and had changed the galaxy forever. Princess Lyra turned to Evan once more. "The vow is fulfilled," she said softly, "but its meaning has grown. Let us see how far this respect can travel." Evan nodded. "Together," he said, "human and Aurelian." Korath stepped forward, bowing fully this time. "May your courage guide us all," he said. The audience erupted again, louder than before. The floating city below seemed to shimmer brighter, as if acknowledging that the impossible had been achieved. Humanity, underestimated and mocked, had finally earned its place among the stars, not through sheer strength alone, but through courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding will to survive. And so the vow, once a tradition of challenge, became a symbol of unity, a reminder that the smallest and seemingly weakest could rise to greatness. Humanity had proven itself in a galaxy that had never before seen such resilience, and the story would be remembered across generations as the day a human changed everything. The stars shone brightly, witnesses to a new era. And in that quiet brilliance, the promise of what humans could achieve stretched across the galaxy, limitless, unbroken, and alive.